Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Internship Prep. So today we're going to talk about essays 2 and 3. So we're getting into, we're about halfway through our preparation of materials, or, well, I don't know, that's really generous. The cover letters take a lot of time, but we're making progress in our way through. So essay 2 is your theoretical orientation essay. And for 99% of the people from this program, and if you're from a touch-up program as well, this is probably true for almost all of you too, the correct answer is CBT. So, yes, you might borrow from other orientations, and people like the sound of saying that they're eclectic, but for the sites that you're looking for, the answer is CBT. And really, what you probably should put down is CBT. So, in my mind, the correct answer is CBT. If you want to put down something else, let's talk about it, and let's see. Yeah, if truly a different orientation is a better fit for you, and you're applying to sites that espouse that orientation, I can live with it. As long as it's an empirically supported treatment, or as long as there's an empirical basis. But again, 99% of you, the answer is CBT. So with that. What almost all of you will do, invariably, is you'll write me a draft that says your CBT, and then you'll describe, a case that sounds very eclectic. Um, you need to actually sound CBT in this. So that means going back to the language you learned in behavior therapy and actually using those terms, talking about, you know, reinforcement, punishment, talking about, you know, all the things that we taught you with that class. Um, you need to use that terminology. So, what someone's going to want to see with this essay is how do you think through a case? So, you don't have to use a case example, but it's very helpful to, and almost everyone does. And ideally, you want to be a case that shows off you fitting with the orientation. So this should be something where you describe the problem. You're able to describe a basic case conceptualization, again, using terms appropriate for CBT. You describe a case or a treatment plan that's, again, fits that case conceptualization, also consistent with CBT. And then a case where you are consistently assessing throughout treatment and adjusting your case conceptualization as needed. That's what it should look like. Now, there are plenty of cases you may have where that didn't happen. So you may want to, keep that in mind in selecting your case. Where did you really employ CBT, type skills, and what's a case that was really amenable to that? Now, it's okay if you started with a empirically supported treatment, manualized therapy like BBI, and then you just, as you got more data, you realize that was not the best treatment, and then you added in another empirically supported treatment. That's fine. You don't have to just stick with one or stick with one that's strictly CBT, but you get the sense. You're going to want to show your ability to think through things using the CBT framework. And to be honest with you, even though you do plenty of CBT in our clinic, um, our supervisors don't typically really harp on you to use that terminology and to think of these things in a CBT light. So that's where I'll help you with editing the essays, and ask your advisor to do that too. Your advisor should see all of your essays before I do. But have them make sure that you're using the language, you're using the right terminology. Just put on that hat that you wore back when you took behavior therapy, and just make sure that it's consistent with that class, and you'll do a lot better. Essay 3 is your diversity essay. This is where you really have a huge advantage because you're from Mississippi. it was much harder for me with West Virginia, which was so much less diverse of a state, to write this essay just because I really hadn't seen that many diverse clients. So I was left talking about how I would approach a diverse client. You have, many more examples of working with diverse clients you can draw upon. Um, so hopefully you have a diverse client that you can use as a case example. Um, it's okay if not. Again, this is another one where almost everyone uses some type of case example. But the main things you want to be able to show is, first of all, that you're aware of diversity and diversity issues, that you're taking that into account in your case conceptualization and just in the way you approach working with the client. So some things to be aware of, especially if I say that I'm CBT or even more of a behavioral focus like I actually am. I always take an ideographic approach, so a very individualized approach. That helps. That doesn't get us all the way, but that helps with making sure that you're sensitive to diversity. You also will want to make sure that you're educating yourself on that diversity. So maybe if you're working with someone from a different culture than you've worked with before, you consult the literature about that culture. Um, you don't want to force the client to teach you about the culture. That's not their job. But you should be considering acculturation. And it's certainly appropriate to talk with the client to figure out how much of what you read about the culture, in your preparation is true for them and what fits and what doesn't. So that's kind of where that ideographic approach fits with this. Certainly, also for all of your measures, how did you make sure those were appropriate? Are there cutoffs for different groups that you considered? Are there different measures that are more appropriate than others? Those sorts of things. Um, for both essays 2 and 3, it's more than giving the right answer. It's really showing that you know how to think clinically and think through these sorts of things. Um, so with that, I encourage you to think of good cases that will help demonstrate that you do know this and you can think through these difficult concepts, and that can help show you off in that way. So I hope that helps. These are essays you're going to likely have to do 2 or 3 revisions on. That's normal, that's everyone. Um, but I hope this helps at least get the first draft a little closer than it would have been otherwise.